Hello and good evening to everyone who's just joining for the class of today. Um, I'm very excited for this class because we're starting to work on our special animals. So I hope you all had the opportunity to do some research on the species you were interested on drawing. I can tell you a little bit more about the species that I selected and the one that I'm gonna be drawing. And I will let you know why it was interesting for me to go for this species. I went from a species that is called Anolis heterodermus, and I'm gonna share with you a bit of what I did. Alright. So yeah, this is my species. It's an Andean chameleon. And for me, it was very exciting to go for this species, as I was telling you in previous classes. I'm more used to drawing birds and more used to drawing mammals. So going for a reptilian is quite exciting. I was doing some research. This is a species that you find both in Colombia and in Ecuador, and is a species that lives in very high altitudes. So it's not that common to find other species of lizards like this, and that's what makes it so special. I was reading a lot about the anatomy of the species, and I think all the things that I found in my research are things that I wanna make visible and I wanna make obvious in my illustration. One of the things I found is that there's a difference between the female and the male in this species. And this is a phenomenon that we call sexual dimorphism, which means just that when you have the male, it's gonna have different anatomical characteristics to the female. And in this case, it comes together to the coloration. That's one of the difference. The female of this species can have a lighter green, and the male can have a more bluish or grayish color. Also, the males in this species have an extensible dewlap. That's the one I was drawing here, like this little zoom in I did. I didn't know that that was the term, the dewlap. Um, but yeah, so when you come and realize that you have a species that male and female are different, then you maybe wanna do both of the specimens so you can see the difference. There's animals that have differences like this, that is mostly based on coloration or on the dewlap, like extra parts that they have or different anatomical parts, and that's what's gonna make them different. So maybe if you're looking at this individual and you do it very fast, maybe you're not really gonna see the difference. We have other species, of course, like spiders, where you can find that the females and the males of the same species can be abruptly different. Like you can find in these ones, you usually find this difference on the size. So the female spider is way bigger than the male. And that's also very interesting because if you don't know this, maybe you see both of the spiders and you think, oh, those are different species. So I was thinking that I would like to show both of these, both female and male, on my illustration. And then what I did, besides like looking for the information about how their anatomy works, I also looked some taxonomical stuff. And the taxonomy maybe is not super important to know, but maybe it's just something to keep in mind. The taxonomy is the divisions in which we categorize different animals, and not only animals, like taxonomic ranks also exist in plants, in all the living things. We divide those in taxonomy. So when we're talking about animals, then we have the ranks that we have are kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. They're going from general to a specific. So the species I'm working with right now is called Anolis heterodermus, and I just look up some of these ranks, not all of them, only from yeah, like the smaller ones. I have that is an Anolis, that would be the genera, and the family is Anolidae, and these ranks that we have, they help us um, categorize our animals, and then we're gonna find like animals that have similar characteristics. They're gonna have similar anatomy, and that's how they end up categorized in the same. Let's say in this case, it could be categorized in the same family, but then when you look at them, they have difference, and that's why you have, well, the different species on the same family, even in the same genre. So I was looking of the information of this species, and this is a species that is different from the other ones, mostly based on coloration. So I'm gonna show you some pictures of this animal. While I was looking for the pictures in the website that I told you about, in iNaturalis, well, as I mentioned, is a lot of people that they found an animal, take a picture, and they upload it to the website. They say, I think this is this species. And then there's a group of specialists that are going to be reviewing the information that you upload to see if it matches with the one that they have. So then I went to iNaturalist, and then I look for the species that I'm working with this lizard. And while I was also like reviewing the information online, I found that the color with the species that lives in Ecuador is actually different to the one that lives in Colombia. That's also a good thing to know, because maybe you wanna depict a species, and then you look for reference, and you're looking for the same species, but in this species there's already variations. So then you have to be aware of that, and when you're looking for these images, you can also put a filter on them. So in this case, I just filter them, like just show me the observation of these species, the ones that have been found in Colombia. What's interesting about this, that even having the filter on, and even with me saying like show me only the observations of this animal in Colombia, we're having different colorations. So I think I'm gonna have to do a bigger research on that, so I don't get the coloration wrong, or I get something that is maybe kind of in the middle, like an average of what the coloration is that you can find. Or maybe this also happens in other species. when they're juveniles, the color is slightly different than when they're adults. So maybe if you wanna go big with it, you can also draw the juvenile stage, the female and the male, because they tend to be different. But I just want you to see what I mean when I tell you that my species has a lot of changes in coloration. Alright. So this is my species. This is the one I was telling you. It's a very beautiful lizard. Um, and well, when I was looking for the pictures, I was also looking to find different positions. Okay, but this is what I was telling you about with the coloration. Look at the previous image that I have. Then I can see very strong greens. I can see light greens, even maybe a little bit of blue around the mouth. And when I go ahead and look at the other one, then is way darker. Look, I even have brown spots, and the only blue that I'm seeing is on the beginning of the tail. And this one also has it has a little bit of gray instead of the strong and bright green. Okay, this is also green with maybe some copper yellowish notes. And this again is really bright green and with also bright blue and even white surrounding the eyes. And this is just very bright green with a bit of white on the dorsal part. So this is what I mean that it can be complicated when you're looking at different specimens of the animal. What I wanted also with this was take a look on the position of the animal, because I want to do something that feels natural. And I've seen a lot of pictures like this image that I'm showing you. It's just a little bit bended forward. And I think that's an interesting position if we want to be showing the extensible dewlap. I think it's maybe also like the one I draw as my... This was just a quick sketch that I did. So when the specimen has the body a little bit more up, then you can perfectly see the extensible dewlap. But let me show you, like if I were to draw it, look, this would be a perfect one to depict the dewlap. But if I show it maybe like this, then I cannot make that so visible because it's very close to the tree. So okay, this is what we're gonna be working on with. We're gonna be looking at different references of our species so we can start doing our sketch and start having an idea of what we want. And this you can do with any species, like the one you chose. If you're going for a bird, if you're going for a fish, if you're going for a mammal, whatever you chose, you just have to look for a couple of images that are our main reference, and then we can start from there. Okay, so as I was telling you, when I was doing my research, I found different things about this animal. Not only about the color, but also about the anatomy. So they say that they have short limbs, they have short and prehensile tail, and they have like chameleon-like movements. The name in Spanish is Camaleon andino, or yeah. So that's like the not the scientific name, but the maybe the name that people just the general name. And it's because even when it's not a chameleon, it can sometimes have this type of movements. And it also says that when the species is in very high levels of stress, it can change to a dark green. All these things that I was researching are things that we wanna show very clearly when we're doing the illustrations. So what I have in mind, and then you're gonna be see all my creative process, because you're here since the beginning of this illustration. So you're gonna be seeing, yeah, this creative process, and maybe the sketches that we do today are maybe the sketches that we're gonna be doing today are a little bit more conceptual and not necessarily exactly what's gonna be the final illustration. So first, I wanna, as I already mentioned to you, I wanna show both of the individuals. And for the male, I want the male to be showing the neck so you can see this structure very clearly. And I feel that you find them a lot in this position. Do you see that I have a like this position? I have a lot of images that are showing this position. I just love this one, and I think could be very interesting. So maybe I wanna do maybe I wanna do one specimen here that's having that position. And this is just a bit to have an idea of what the position could look like, but I'm not gonna be making exactly a copy of this image that I have as a reference. So in here, this one you cannot see the body. I think I could draw the body. And for the female, so yeah, I have an idea that this is gonna be the male. And maybe for the female, I want a position that is more like this. Even kinda like this. So then if I would have one here, then the other one. Okay, I'm gonna make this a bit smaller so you can maybe see better what I'm drawing. So I have one like this and the other one. I saw that someone told me last class, like, hey, you should draw a cobra, and it's not that far away. I know that this is definitely gonna be something difficult because of the scales that they have. That's very complicated to draw, and is a lot of detail that you need, and then you also have to need a lot of understanding on how the scales are distributed around the body. Okay, so I think I could have like the male up here and the female down here, and then he's showing like this. And that's also that they use a lot for reproduction, for mating. So then I think it's interesting to be showing it. Okay, this is definitely complicated because of the shape of these animals. At the beginning, this is just looking even like snakish, not with a lot of shape. But don't worry, sketches can look like that. Okay, so this is my idea. Maybe this is like a tree truck or something, and then we have both of them standing here, and then one is like showing the this structure, and then the other one is just chilling there. And then in here we can see what I was telling you, like the about the characteristics that I found on my research, that they have short limbs, that we can show there the proportion, that they also have expanded digital pads. We can also show that they have granular scales. Yeah, that's also that you are definitely going to be seeing on the illustration. So yeah, right now I'm not really thinking about shape. No, I'm really thinking about coloration as I'm thinking about shape. I'm also not really thinking about things like light. I'm not thinking where the light is coming from or where the specimen is being hit by the light. Though those are things that we're gonna be working on later that are gonna help us to build up our illustration a bit more. Mm, but yes, I think I'm gonna use this one. Yeah, this one is gonna help me to be elaborating this. So let's, even though this other one that I have, I really like it, and I've seen a lot of these animals in this position, so I think that could also be a good reference. Whenever we're doing these sketches, we have to be in constant observation because it's very easy to fall out of the characteristics of the species. So then it's important that we just keep an eye on that. If you already have like an image like this, what you could also do is flip it, and then that's gonna help you just, well, yeah, it's just making things easier for you. If you want to draw the animal in a different position, then flipping it is just a good idea. Alright. Almost there. I know that maybe in the camera it's not that clear, the drawing, so I'm gonna do a zoom in for you. Then today we're gonna focus on the female. Let's see. I still don't know what I want to do with the tail because I see a lot of illustrations. Okay, I saw some illustrations of these pieces and they like to do the tail like a curve, but I think that's just a way of using the space maybe in a smarter way because it's such a huge tail. If you look at this reference image, you can see that the tail is almost double, like is as long as the body. So then that could be complicated to fit in one image. Okay, and those are things that we can work later because if we have two two long structures, I can also place them maybe long in my sketch. Um, I'm gonna work with this one, so just bear with me. Yes, so let's start a bit with the head. It's amazing how many scales it has all over the body. And I'm still thinking of how I'm gonna place this. Because, I could do like one here and the other one on top, so they're not. Because that's just gonna make my page very small. And if we place them one on top of the other, that could also be very interesting. Okay, but let me see. Mm. Yeah, I think that could work because then I can also have a view that's more from the front down, like you see in this reference, that is not exactly like the profile. Okay. So right now I'm not thinking about a lot of things, but just that I have to ignore things so I'm able to focus on what's important right now. And what's important right now is the shape and the position. That's it. You don't have to right now. You're not gonna be thinking about um you're not gonna be thinking about where the shade is, or you're not gonna be thinking about what color it is. Those things we're gonna focus on more lately. And also not the details. If I'm gonna be drawing the finger super accurately right now, maybe it's gonna take me a while, so I'm just gonna maybe show where they go. And that's it. I'm kinda using this reference for this one. I just flip it, but yeah, that's the one that's helping me. Yeah, maybe I do wanna do it. Okay, I'm not gonna do the tail right now, but I think it could be very interesting if I do the tail long and I don't do it with this curve that I draw initially. Okay, well, this reference has this leg that is going kind of big to the back. I'm not sure about that if I want to use that same reference, because if I look to other pictures, let me see. Oh no, actually it has the leg like that in a lot of pictures. I was thinking something more like this, you know? Mm, maybe just this one is a little bit too much to the back. And this one, when I mean with this one, I just mean talking about this reference. And what I would want to do is for that part of my drawing, I want to be using this one. So it's a bit more like perpendicular to the body, and it's not going that much back. And those are the things that you're gonna be doing the whole time. Like, you're gonna be looking at the specimen and thinking like, okay, what do I like about this one? And what could I use for my illustration? Is this something that is gonna look realistic? Is that something that's gonna be describing my species? Because sometimes we see some animals that they're in a weird position, and maybe we don't see that animal that often in nature in that way. So then we can go ahead and change it, and that's the whole thing about scientific illustration, that we can change those things, you know. And at this point, I just want to make sure that I'm having the proportions right, like we were talking about in previous classes about the drawings. You can do a quick measurement with the reference that you have and with the drawing that you have, just to see if, let's see, like in this one, I see that the head is as long as, and it fits around 2 times in the body. So if I have the head here and I measure it, then it should be 1 and 2 times in the body. So yeah, my body would be finishing around here if I keep my head of this length. And I'm just gonna start erasing and redrawing and erasing and redrawing, which is what I want you all to do with your own species. I'm very curious to know which species are you guys drawing. If you want to share it with me, I would love to hear. Can you draw a little harder? I can see what you really are doing. Okay, yeah. I can do that, of course. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, maybe I'm doing it too soft. I'm using a 2H. Maybe let's change for something harder. Hmm. And that's good also because I did like this kind of I did like some lines that can help me guide, and then the rest I can go from here. Okay, so what do I see on this one? I think it depends on the angle, then the head is gonna be like more prominent from the body or not. Hmm. It's just like drawing a little dinosaur. Right now I'm taking a closer look. This one for the head. And again, in here, I just wanna, like I mentioned before, we don't wanna jump right ahead on the details. We just wanna understand where everything is. Like I wanna understand right now where my eye is. I wanna understand where the mouth is. I wanna understand the limits of the head. How far away is it going? Where is the neck starting? So in here we see a texture kind of like this. We're gonna be working on that later. Yeah, and as you can see, the reference that I'm using still kind of different to the position that I want to convey. Like if I want to do something like this, or even something like this, then maybe I have to rethink the whole where my eyes are. So yeah, maybe this part is not the most exciting. Like for me, maybe it is that you don't have a greater feeling of reward with what you're doing, as in when you're really having an idea of what you're doing and you're able to show it in a very clear way. Okay, so I change, yeah. Like I think this reference is gonna help us better. But we just really need to have a clear understanding of what's happening in this point of the drawing before we start elaborating. Because in here is where we solve all the questions that we have. We don't want to start drawing without having all those questions solved. Because if maybe I would just like say, okay, the eye goes like that, and then I put it like that in my clean paper when I'm gonna draw my final illustration, I'm not really sure what's happening there. No, I don't really know exactly the direction of it. I don't really know where it's supposed to be going, what part is the pupil and what part is the... If I don't have those structures clear in this part of the drawing, I cannot continue with the next one. So we have this whole week of working on the sketches, and I hope you're doing this exercise with your own species as well. I'm gonna be drawing this lizard, but you can draw any animal that you wanna draw. And as you can see, what we're doing is like putting a lot of references together. When you look at this reference that we have right here on the side, we can see that the arm is going all the way down to the ground. And in this one, we want to keep it a bit lower to the ground. And I mean like lower to the ground like this one. And in here, your line work is important. In one previous class, I was asking you about lines and about what you were thinking when you're drawing lines, like what are you really depicting. And yeah, sometimes it can be the division between one element and the other that we are seeing, but mostly when we draw lines, it's just a change of light. And maybe I went too hard on this line here in the head, but it's just also for me to understand what's happening. And that's the thing about sketches, that you're the one who's supposed to understand what's happening. A sketch is not for anyone else but you. Yeah, you can show your friends and your mom that you did a cool sketch, but the whole idea of a sketch is for you to understand what's happening, and for you to use this sketch as a reference to continue with your next part of the process of illustrating. Okay, I think I like this position, I like this view on this one. And I wanna figure out the tail later, so I'm just gonna leave it like in a standby. So I'm gonna work a bit more on the legs, on the extremities, and then we're gonna jump into our male, okay? And again in here, okay, I find it hard to draw the back of this animal because if you see a reference like this, it looks pretty flat. But if you see something like this, then it has like a little bit more of a belly. It has a little bit more of, like presence in the body. And I think that's interesting. Like here, instead of going all flat, it just goes like this and then goes again. Yeah, it's not super obvious, and that's what I mean when I tell you that you really have to work on your line work here, because one change in the line, like if you change a little bit the inclination or you change the angle a bit, then the drawing can change a lot. Sometimes when we're doing this, when we're just doing the lines, you could feel that your animal is too big, or like your proportions are not right, like they're bigger than they should be. And this is completely normal, because when you're gonna start elaborating this, then half of this is gonna be shadow. Then already when it's not flat, it's gonna give us that sense that is a little bit more slim. So then don't worry about that yet. If you took your measurements and they were right and then you're happy with it, just keep going with it. I've seen some images of like the fingers of the lizard, and at the beginning I was looking at them and thinking that they were quite similar to maybe to the bird paws. And then I realized that they also have scales, like when we see the nail of a bird, they also have scales on those structures, so it's not that close. Yeah, I want to make sure I don't do things too big. They're at least a little bit accurate. And from these drawings, just think that this is like the first encounter that you're having with your species. And maybe you did already a lot of research, and maybe you already know a lot about your species. But when you start to draw yours, you also start to getting to know them better. So just enjoy that. Hmm. And okay, I'm almost done with this one. But I think I wanna work on this a bit better. So yeah, I'm almost done with this one. Maybe I also wanna review some things about the head. And then, as I was telling you, then we're gonna look at on the details of this. But then, if you can imagine this with me, this lizard is kind of leaning on something here. It can be a rock, it can be a tree or something. And yes, I want to look up of the head. Now I'm thinking that maybe is too long. The head, I mean, not really the neck. They do have really long necks. Okay, but also with this kind of animals, I think that the differentiating, like what's the end of the head or what's the end of the neck, where does the body start, where does the body finish, where is the tail beginning, those things are not that easy. Mm. Okay, and what I was telling you that you might have with other parts of your drawing, I'm having with my head right now. Like I'm thinking maybe it's very big for what it should be. Okay. Maybe it should be a little bit smaller. Maybe. Maybe it's not long enough. Alright, so what am I seeing here? I believe now that this paw should be way in the back. Yeah, no. Yeah, I feel that only when two heads are here, then this one is starting. Yeah, so I'm erasing this one now. Okay, this is just the natural process and just how it can go when you're doing your sketch. Hmm. So I'm just gonna do the same structure but a little bit here. And I just wanna see what's happening between all this. And I mean what's happening between. Yeah, maybe that's looking better. But yeah, I was doing this. Okay. So I'm gonna change a bit here the thickness of the body. And then I'm gonna take the tail. Because if you look at the reference, the tail is not going. Like the tail is pretty aligned. So I'm gonna go with that movement here. And I'm gonna try to connect it with the one on top. Alright, yeah, and that'll be something like that. So this would be my female. Then let's go at the male. That was the one that was here. Yes, I know you cannot see much, but you're gonna be able to see much super soon. When you're doing the sketch, this also helps a lot, that you're just doing some lines in your paper for you to try to understand what's happening. And it doesn't have to be the final line, it doesn't have to be like what's staying. If something's good about this process is that we can fix everything. If we don't like something, we can go ahead and fix it. So yeah, this one I'm doing kinda using this one as the main reference. But I don't want it to stop here because yeah, in here my reference stops, so I want the body to keep going. But yeah, I'll show you that later. Mm. So yeah, I did some lines, but maybe at this moment I'm not really understanding what's happening. I have to figure it out again. So we have one arm coming out of here. We have another one coming from the back. And just basically any resource that you can find that can give you information about your species, you can use. There's a lot of videos that you can find that help you understand also other things that maybe you're not thinking about. Maybe when you're looking at the pictures just because it's very static image, then you cannot really capture what's happening with this specimen. But maybe when you are looking to a video, then you understand it way better because it's moving in its natural environment and it's not just a picture. So when you're looking at the video, yeah, you can also pause it and look what's happening and go from there. Mm. So yeah, this is kind of complicated one. It's a really good exercise to draw things that you're not used to draw. And I mean this because you're gonna get used to the things that you're drawing, and it's gonna get easier and easier. For example, if you're drawing portraits, then you're gonna get used to drawing human faces. You're gonna get used to the proportions. You're gonna get used, I don't know, to maybe, for example, the distance that there's between the eyes that is usually around the size of an eye. Those things, we get used to those things. And it's a great exercise to do to start drawing something that you're not so used to draw. Because then you really have to observe it, like to observe what's happening, to understand what's happening. And maybe you find yourself admiring an animal that you've never admired before. Maybe understanding an animal that you've never took the time to stop and see. Like, hey, do you see this? Like, I'm just drawing them out, and that also happened with the female that I was just doing. And they have this little hole when the line of the mouth ends. I think that's very interesting, and maybe I've never noticed that before. Yes, as you can see, I'm just taking things that I like from a picture that I found, and then I use it on my sketch, and then I use another one, and then I use another one. So I just really like the position of the head of this one here. Hmm. And this is something that I'm sure that I'm gonna have to review because I'm adding a structure to this image that doesn't really have it like this. So then I wonder if I'm doing it correctly. I wonder if this animal could look like this. But this is just me like reconstructing an image to work in my favor. Okay, so we see on the reference that is gonna go body goes down, right? This is my reference, body goes down. But in here I want body to go back. So instead of being like body goes down because he's going behind this tree, then I'm gonna do this like that. And then maybe at this point I could also think on the position of the tail, like what I was telling you, that I don't really see this species having its tail in this curve, but it's like it goes straight. Then I have to find out if I will be looking at something like this. Maybe I could finish it with, yeah, something like this. Maybe this is gonna help me understand the ratio between, look, head, arm, and the back extremity. That could help me a lot. I understand also that this picture has a if you see it has a great distortion, we're going to be seeing the head way bigger than the rest of the body. It's like a vanishing point that we have, and it goes very strongly. If you see the end of the tail is way thinner than the size of the head. And if we see at other references, maybe neck and end of the body can have about the same size. Like this, you see it already way different because you're seeing it from the side. Okay, now I'm thinking that maybe I draw it too thick. And when you're using just one reference, you can see things like I could not draw them the fingers because I don't have the example of it, but maybe then I can grab this one and use those. So this is interesting. Now I'm looking from up close, and this one has 5, and in the female I was drawing only 4. It's almost like a human hand. It's just that at the end has a little bit of a curve. Ooh, okay, I think it's something like this. As I told you before, this can always change. I'm gonna review it later. This is not the final one. So just start drawing what you feel that could fit. Not only the species, but also that could fit the composition, the thing that you have in mind. And this arm, I don't know. I think in the reference already looks kinda weird here. Like if we look at all the other references that we have, none of them is doing this. So maybe I'm gonna change that later. And I also did everything very straight. Maybe the lines are very straight, and if we just give them some curve, is gonna give it more life to this specimen. Okay, let's see. And I'm just gonna use one of the other ones. That can be maybe just this one. Or right too big, we cannot see this anymore. Okay, that's better. Maybe I'm just gonna use this one. Or maybe even this one. Wait. Maybe just this one. Now that I'm really looking at this one, I can also see that it clearly has also 5. I don't know if it would call fingers or toes or what would be the right term for that. I can look it up and tell you in the next class. And this is what I want you to do with all the animals that you're drawing. You just try to understand how they work, understand what's happening, understand how they move, how they would just be in the wild. And then going back to our other part of the drawing, then I think this rock kind of goes here, and then both of them are just standing there. So this is one of the ideas that I had, but as I was mentioning, these ideas can always change. This is roughly the composition that I want to make. But I was wondering if maybe I could use the space better and do something differently. And let me just show you what I mean. I'm gonna use a tracing paper again. I think this is just very useful when you're working with a composition that you haven't figured out what you want to do with. Okay, I think I like it like this. But yeah, I do have a little bit of an issue. Like if this is the size of paper that I'm gonna use, and this is just like it's not an A3, it's a little bit smaller than an A3. Then I could not fit both if I'm gonna use a size like this. So then what could we do about it? And what I think I could do is that I place them one like more on the top. Okay, but then this one would not be looking at the other one. I think this is interesting because if they're doing like just a mating, what's the name of this? Yeah, maybe if they're in the mating process, maybe if they're doing these signals to one another, then maybe we want the female to be looking at the male doing all this signal. So then I don't know if it would work if they're not looking at each other. But okay, let me just show you the other idea that I had that it could work, and this is just mainly compositional that I want to explain to you. So I'm just gonna go over it real fast. Tracing paper is a great way to play with your ideas, because then you don't have to be erasing everything and starting all over, but you can just kind of create on the way. So I have this one. And I think it could also work. Yeah, I have this one here. Yeah, the only thing is the thing I was mentioning that I feel in a way they're no longer interacting. So maybe this one is now trying to mate with another another specimen that is around and not with this one. This is what I was telling you at the beginning, that you were gonna be looking at my whole creative process. Because, yeah, when you see a beautiful illustration, you also understand that it took a lot of work, it took a lot of research, it took a lot of thinking. Okay, what am I gonna do now? Is this gonna work? Is this idea good? So this is the first one. I like this one. If I'm being honest, I really like this one. I don't know how we could do, because maybe there is a way to make this one maybe placing this higher and this one lower, so they're still like kind of like looking at each other. Cause yeah, just let me show you this one. This would be great to fit them both in one page, because then I can do long tails for both, you know? That's something that I also want to do. But then they're not looking at each other. Mm, yeah. Let's do another one. I'm gonna do another trial of the first one we have. With what I was saying, like let's put one higher and the other one lower, and then we can think of it of being just being maybe in different levels in the tree or something, you know? They don't have to be standing one in front of the other, or like not necessarily. And then we're gonna explore if I can do this one, but just trying to adjust details. If I find some references that I like, that I can use details. Okay, so what I have, the idea that I have with this one, mm, we wanna adjust just a little bit of the angle, would be okay. Also, my paper is not as big as my. Do you see that? That can complicate things. But okay, I'm just gonna meet them in the middle. This would be my middle. Yes, and then I know I have a little bit more space to put the tails in. So I'm just thinking that maybe if I, yeah, like I do one of them higher and the other one a bit lower, then they still have plenty of space. They are still looking at each other, and then we can use this initial idea. Yeah, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So we have our first one, and yes, so what I think is maybe if this is high here, then maybe this can be like lower here. You know what I mean? And this could take a while, like to figure out how you want to place all the elements. Maybe you are working with a species that you just want to draw either male or female, and then you are trying to figure out other stuff like mm, if you have another structure in your drawing. Maybe you have a tree, maybe this animal standing on the ground, and you want to know how much percentage of the down part of your sheet you want it to be ground, or maybe it's standing on a tree, or maybe you can see a leaf of the tree they're standing at. All those things we have to figure out on a sketching process. And this is idea number one. I like this, I still like this, not gonna lie to you. And this is idea number two. That can also work. I think in this way they are still interacting. And yeah, like you see that this one is looking up, you see that this one is like showing off and trying to make the mating signal and trying to catch the attention, and yeah, displaying all this, well, this structure that we see so strongly here, the dewlap that we see. So I think this could work. I just trying to think how I want to do this. Okay, I'm gonna show you on this paper. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna change it to this. I'm gonna change it to this. Okay, no, I think I still have the issue with the, because if I put it still on this size, let's say that it would be like this. Okay, yeah, no, tail could go down here. Yeah, no, maybe tail could also go a little bit around here. No, yeah, I think it could work. Okay, so I'm telling you, I'm gonna use this one, but I'm gonna show you how I want your sketches to look like. Why? Because if you're following my instructions, then you have this. And this can be very messy. This can be things that you were trying to figure out, things like volume. You were trying to figure out things like where a structure was ending, things like maybe texture, maybe just needed information from that. And what we want is a sketch that is just a little bit cleaner. That was my pencil in front of the camera, if you noticed that. Okay, I'm gonna erase this and then go over it again. If you trace it like me, like this, you are gonna wanna hold on to one of these, because that's also gonna give us the space to understand volume. So next class we're gonna be talking about that. But on this one, I wanna get rid of the extra lines that we no longer need. That's mostly it. And I also need you to figure out all the stuff that you need to figure out. And I mean, and in my drawing, for example, is things like the extremities that I still, like this one, I still don't have clearly where that is going. So I need to figure that out. Yeah, it looks like I'm erasing everything. I'm not. I can still see it. I think maybe, yeah, maybe you can see a little bit. Just as long as you see it is alright. Let's work on that head and then continue to the rest of the body. So yeah, I just use a lot of lines to define what I wanted to do here. So I'm just wanna keep it simple and just do one line. Or like as little lines as we need. Because sometimes you want, and it's also useful to do lines that are gonna give you more information. And I'm gonna show you this later. Like here, I have one line that is the body. I have the other line, and this line right here is the dollop. That's gonna merge here. And then I can also use this line to indicate that this is darker than this is hitting the light, so we can indicate it. It's giving us also information about volume, so that's good. And then we have here I really feel like I'm drawing a dinosaur. Okay. And this is what I mean, that I want those sketches to be a little bit more clean. See, when we're in this part, we also realize, like, I'm just realizing that maybe I didn't pay that much attention to the position of the eye. Maybe it's something that I have to take a deeper look into. So then I can do that. And then in here we have another very strong line that gives us information of the volume of the head. And that it also tells me again that this eye could be better placed. Yeah, now I'm going further away from what I want. Maybe it'll help to have the reference here. Okay. I mean, another thing happening here is then when we remove all these lines, then we're gonna realize that yeah, if I look at it like this, maybe I think, oh, that eye might be huge. It can be smaller. Okay, but I'm also drawing this structure that is around the eye that you can see that is a lighter green. So yeah, I know that the eye is not that enormous. And then just try, because for each one of these strokes I did like, you see, like 10 different lines. Just try to find the right one. Try to find the right that is gonna depict what you wanna show. Maybe in here I didn't raise that much. Okay, I'm already gonna tell you that I'm gonna take a better look at the extremities later. Because if there is something hard to draw, like you probably already know that drawing hands is hard. I'm just here to let you know that drawing other extremities in animals is also hard. So to draw paws, to draw yeah, all these structures is gonna be complicated. Okay, there's something that I wanna show you, and I can show you very easily with this example and is that in the back of our specimen we have this texture of these pointy things. We have all those scales. We're not gonna worry about those details right now. Right now we're just trying to understand the general shape. So if you have an animal that has a lot of texture, if you have an animal that have structures that are very complicated, just try not to think about them right now. Just try to go for the general shape first, and then we're gonna get into that, okay? And then I just want to show you kind of the difference. Okay, wait. I need to remove this one so you can see what I'm doing. When I'm looking at the picture, sometimes these extremities look very shapeless. Like when I was looking up the reference of this one, then I think I was really thinking of birds. But then when I look at this one in the back, then it's more like it doesn't have something super defined as a shape. So, yeah, you're gonna realize when you're doing your sketch that you're gonna have a lot of things that you're gonna wanna look more into it. So for me, is a couple of things like extremities, and I also have things like coloration, and also final things about position. So now I do want to show you the difference. I'm gonna work on the other one, but I just wanted you to see. Just the difference between one and the other. Like in this one we can see that I traced that pencil a couple of times already, and it's not that clear what's happening. So sometimes a line, just one single line, can give us way more information than a lot of lines on top of each other. That can be a bit confusing. So let's do this one. We're gonna finish with this. So again, first thing I do is kind of erasing. So I can just trace it again. And this, of course, is not going to be the paper that we're going to use for the final illustration, because as you can see, there's a lot of stains on it already that I'm not going to be able to remove. Also, I trace maybe too hard on some parts, so that also I cannot remove. not exactly that one. But yeah, just because we use so many different images to get to the final one, then you're gonna see that is not exactly like any of the ones that we draw. But we can still have like important things that we want to know here. Like the little hole that I was telling you that we also have on the other one, it's here as well. And then this is just a way closer look at an eye. See, even if it's not the same one that we're using, that is gonna help us. It's gonna help us understand what's happening. And in here, can you see all that? I could trace so many times that I just have a big blob. Yeah, but what I want is something like this. Okay, and this is more or less what I want you to have for next class. Okay, and just again, some things that I don't have right now that you need to have for next class is having all the things that you need in parts like the extremities, that you make sure that that's the shape. Like here, that that's the right shape. Also, don't leave spots like this without, but also try to do research and to look for images that are going to give you an understanding of what would happen right here. And then I'm going to bring this one next week, but as I told you, I'm going to do it with this, not this one, with the other one, with this layout, so we can start elaborating on it. What do I advise you to do? So remember last class that we were seeing tracing techniques with the bird? that we use the tracing paper so we can pass it to a new sheet. So just advise you to do this drawing and just make sure all the things, all the structures that you want are on the right place. And then we're gonna trace it into a new paper. And in this paper is the one that we're gonna use to start doing our final illustration. So I want you all to think on things like composition as well. That was also something that we worked today on, like doing different types, different options, like different variations of the final layout. So if you already have the animal that you want to place, then just play with it. Try to not put it too low on your sheet or too high. Just try to make it shine, try to make it show it in the way that you want to show it. And when you're just going around the research, try that your image is going to be also explaining all the things that you found. I think that this is a very interesting one because you're seeing both females and male specimen of one species. And then, yeah, this is not a one with color because we're doing it on pencil. So um, later on when we do last one, that is our watercolor one, then that's gonna help us also portray that and also show the difference. But remember that when we're working with pencil, we're also gonna be able to see some variation on the colors, but that we're gonna convey mostly with the tone that we're gonna be able to reach with our pencils. So yeah, for next class, I just want you to have this with the species that you wanna draw. And then next week we're gonna be working on, yeah, starting our illustration on pencil, and we're gonna be working on volume. We're gonna be working on how the light is hitting these specimens. Okay. So yeah, if you have any question, you can always write it down here on the chat. I'll be happy to answer your questions. I'm always looking to the comments. So yeah, please, if you have anything else, anything I can help you with, you can always send a message there. Even if you're looking at this class not live, but you maybe had the time later on the week to see it, you can always send me a message, and I'll happily reply to it. So that'll be all for today. Thank you again so much for joining to this class of animal illustration, and yeah, to be a part of this class in the last week as well, because now we're getting further in our illustration process. So now you're gonna see how all the things that we have learned and all the things that we have worked on in previous classes, we're gonna be able to use them, and they're gonna help us make a beautiful and amazing scientific illustration. So I look forward to seeing you all next Thursday with your drawings. And yeah, that'll be all for today. Bye bye.